on the marketplace on Monday afternoon, where we were talking about subsidies. And I was talking about how Nigeria needs to end subsidies, fuel subsidies, and transfer the money elsewhere. And there were a lot of people, I love our listeners. Our listeners are the best debaters on the planet. Shout out to all our Smooth FM listeners. Very informed, educated responses. The issue I found was that a lot of people don't trust the government to be able to move that money elsewhere, But the argument was made again from the World Bank. The World Bank just released, just yesterday, its Nigeria Development Updates. It's a biannual report where it looks at where Nigeria is. There it is. Thank you for displaying it on the screen there. So that's the Nigeria Development Updates. The title was Resilience Through Reforms. So for all of our folks who are watching us on YouTube, you can see Valentine displaying the cover of the reports right there. So the World Bank talked about a number of things. One, they've projected that GDP growth should be about 1.8% this year. They are optimistic on some levels, but then they're also pessimistic on other levels because they want to see more reforms from the government. And that is the thing that, you look at how China got to where it is, you look at where Ghana is right now, it is reforms. You have to push forward reforms that will change your economy. And so there were two individuals that gave a television interview yesterday from the World Bank. Shubham Chaudhuri. Shubham Chaudhuri is the World Bank country director for Nigeria. And also another gentleman by the name of, Marco Hernandez. The other gentleman is Marco Hernandez. He is the lead economist for the World Bank. And they were both here they were either in Abuja or Lagos, live television interview. And Shubham talked specifically about subsidies because he was asked directly, said, okay, look, all these your reports, you guys are always writing. Every year you write reports. What do you want the Nigerian government to do? Spell it out. The first thing he says the number one priority for the Nigerian government is to shore up its revenues. Nigeria is not bringing in as much revenue as before, of course, because oil prices are falling and so on. He also said that Nigeria has one of the lowest revenue to GDP ratios in the world. I mean, think about that. It's pretty low. It's in single digits or so, Second, he said, okay, one, show up your revenues, try and bring in more, but you do that by diversifying what it is that you sell. You got to sell more stuff, right? Other than oil. Two, he said you have to reduce your expenditure and direct expenditure to more areas of your economy that will have an impact. And they asked him, which expenditure are you talking about, Oga? And he said, I'm talking about subsidies. Your fuel subsidies in this country amounts to about 100 billion naira a month. Look, for anybody that wants to argue this thing, please, and I know you have, and I know that responses, I trust Yinka, I trust everybody else, or Prince and so on, that with their responses, please, if you are listening to this broadcast, I'm asking you now, 100 billion naira month. What else do you think we can put that towards? Can we not put that towards education? Can we not put that towards infrastructure? Put that towards something else? I know you don't trust the government, but if you don't trust the government, who is going to hold the government accountable? Is it not us? We can't just sit there and say, I don't trust them to spend the money. It is up to us to hold them accountable and make sure they spend it. So, they talked about a number of things, but that was the key thing that I took out of it, is that he was like, pick whatever focus you want in Nigeria and target 100 billion towards that focus on a monthly basis. So you have to hold the government accountable and say, so the thing is, in the near term, if you remove subsidies, it will impact people because there will be a pass-through effect on inflation, which, by the way, came out yesterday. Inflation that actually decelerated 17.93% from 18.12% in April. Year on year decelerated, but month on month increase, I think 1.01% or so. But the key thing is that they said, look, it will increase, but if you move that money towards sectors where people can feel the impact, you will cushion that blow, right? They also talked about the exchange rate issues in the country. They commended the central bank for moving the official rates and replacing it with the next rates. That is the investors and exporters window rates. Parallel market is still over 500 naira, but the NAFEX rate at 411, 410 is what's the official rate. They're still moving towards a unification of the rates. What else did they discuss? They talked about how Marco Hernandez, the lead economist, he said that reducing inflation should be the #1 priority of the central bank right now, because inflation, he now gave an example of how with 1,000 naira, you could buy X amount of maize a year ago. This year, you can't buy as much. I've talked about eggs here. I remember when a year plus before COVID, I could buy eggs for what? 800 naira, 850 for a crate of eggs. A crate of eggs now is going for 1,004, 1,005. It's almost double. How much is a bag of rice? How much is beans? Look at all these. So inflation.
Yesterday there was a tweet. There was a tweet by actually. It was interesting that I saw it on Instagram by Mofe Duncan, where he said he put up a picture of 4.5 fingers of plantain going for how much? 6,000 naira. I thought that was ridiculous. I didn't think that was true. But when you go around, you actually see that it's worse in some parts. 4.5 fingers of plantain that usually would have cost around 500 naira a few months or a few weeks ago is now 6,000 naira in Abuja.
Well, that's kind of crazy. That one, I'm having trouble believing that myself, because I mean, I buy plantains often.
Yeah, so I know. So when I saw it, I just thought it was ridiculous.
The large, unless he's talking about the huge bunch, but if you're talking about just the bunch of plantains, they're going for over almost 2,000 naira now. I buy far from where I am now. They used to go for 500 naira. You know, you're right. They bought those bunch of plantains to go for 500. 1,000 plus 2,000. So, you know, for people who are feeding their families, trying to survive, this inflation is an enemy. Look, there's another stat. This stat was wild. The country director for the World Bank to Nigeria, Shubham Chuduri, said that in inflation-adjusted terms, if you adjust for inflation, per capita income of the average Nigerian today in 2021 is where it was in 1980. Is that not mad?
My gosh.
That Nigerians today, if you take in inflation, taking exchange rates, are making the same amount of money that they were making 40 years ago. They haven't even moved forward because exchange rate depreciation, inflation has just been eating away at our purchasing power. So you got to end these subsidies, because you got to take that money and rapidly try and develop the economy as much as you can in order to generate jobs, generate wealth, and allow Nigerians to earn more money so they can get there. You know, so it's
because job sustainability depends on that. Imagine how many people are emotionally traumatized, especially with the way things are. I wrote it. Remember the other day we were having this light conversation around how people earn money, and you just put it in the right context. However damning it sounds, that we're still earning as well as we're earning in 40 years ago. Imagine how many people are still earning the same salaries now as they were earning 5 years ago on the same job and haven't received review because the companies are going through hard times. So the effect is transferred.
And we're talking about people who at least have salaries and have jobs.
Yes.
Those ones, so half the population, is living either under the poverty line or right on the edge of the poverty line. So, you know, Buhari went to, I don't know what stats he pulled out of the air, saying he's removed 10-point-something million people out of poverty. That one doesn't, I don't know.
No, Premium Times debunked that. The fact check.
That one has been debunked. You haven't pulled anybody out of poverty, Oga. So, you know, there's a lot of work to be done. And the scary thing is that when is the next election? We're in June now. 2021 is halfway gone, right? So, you know, will there be enough of a focus for this administration for the last 2 years to implement? Because think about this, so this is June 2021, 6 years into this administration, where the World Bank is just coming out with these stats. And you're asking yourself, so what has this administration achieved, economically speaking? Where are we? So you have an election, you know how this country is when elections start. They won't focus on anything. All they want to do is win an election. So within which space will these reforms be implemented? But I mean, they did commend them. Again, I repeat, they commended the central bank on the exchange rate unification. They commended the government on COVID spending, trying to support, but more needs to be done.
Yeah, pounds is about 700. Let me not just go into that. Goke from UK says, agreed, we need to reduce expenditure, not just on subsidy. What about overbloated public workforce, gigantic salary earned by legislative and government officials? Faisal says, good morning. Rotus, permit me if you actually didn't spell it right. It's Rotus. It says subsidy won't go away anytime soon because the government and the people in government are benefiting from it. Talk about corruption. David says Nigeria frustrates big businesses with bad policies and multiple taxations. For the past 50 years, big businesses and factories have folded up or moved to other countries. Thank you, David. Yinka says Ruto is still not getting it. 100 billion a month on subsidy is crazy. When we decide to hold the government accountable, we protest and they send police after us, who then claims to get a tip-off that hoodlums wants to hijack the protest. Hence, they had to break everything up. Funny thing is, they chased the so-called hoodlums away, which we never see, and won't even go after them. So they won't try to hijack the accountability protest next time. So all the president coming out to claim that protesters are geared to remove him from power. See, Rotus is not easy as you look at it. And I also saw a headline as part of Freshly Pressed Conversation this morning where the government, I'm sure through Uncle Lai, is blaming Twitter and saying they're vicariously liable for NSAS protests. So don't get me started. D from Alausa says, we're tired of this continuous canvassing for subsidy removal. Ghana and China may be doing well, but not due to IMF advice. IMF advice rarely works in the country. They are hypocritical and their policies rarely work. All developed countries give huge subsidies during COVID and continually to their citizens through welfare policies. Thank you for that, D. Now, FS Makani says, hi, economics in Nigeria already know about this. So economists, you meant to say, sorry, know about this. So why is it getting attraction from the World Bank people? Simply because the Nigerian government has no regard for its homegrown economists? Simple. Thank you, FS. Onachuko, actually, AJ from AJ says, tax remains the most reliable source of income. Solve the power, and this will attract investments. And also, Ugo from Surulere adds this one. It will be like a movie when we remove the subsidy and there's nothing to show for it. The fiscal rascality in Nigeria is appalling. Thank you, Ugo from Surulere. Benga Kamu says, it says first, Rotus, that 100 billion can just disappear. Have you been following the drama of recovered monies and properties by agencies by the federal government, And it says, hope you heard that the CBN hopes to reduce importation by 35%. One of the other headlines as well. It says, when Uncle Dangote's refineries come on board, this will happen. Funny how our destiny is tied to that refinery. And he adds that the #1 priority of the CBN is intervening in every area of the economy, from lending farmers money, etc. How do you curb inflation when you remove all subsidies? We don't obey laws of economics here. It says, if you earn 2 million in 1980 and now, there's a huge difference. Abdurrahman says, really, 100 billion subsidy. Such is not shown on the Nigerian economics. This is not real. The money might be in minor hands who put it in private pockets. And Otunuga adds this one. It says, I find it difficult to believe the statistics being bandied around by the Bureau of Statistics. People are really shouting about increase in prices. Herders are wreaking havoc all over the country and farmers would not go to the farms. Starvation is staring us in the face. And that's a warning that we saw earlier in the week. MI from Akoka says, President says his administration has pulled 10 million people out of poverty. World Bank says over 7 million people are falling into poverty. One stat from Nigeria, the other from UAR. It's what it is, fam. I'm done. There's so many messages to go through, but
great messages. Great messages.
Time for them.
Shout out to our listeners. I love our listeners.
Fantastic. If you missed any part of the conversation, please, you know where to go. youtube.com/